Yeah, Duane, I wanted to ask about the position of uh, a new friend, a person who is in the new presentation, um, and as a worldwide educator. He stands on maybe some political upheaval that is taking place around him, and maybe his livelihood is endangered, and he may his position of I don't want to say whether it's neutrality or engagement or what is is called into question. I don't know whether when you live in politically turbulent times, or in a turbulent society, uh, will it be like compromising uh, your your integrity? Is it integrity or your stand as an educator to take part in some movement that can lead to the betterment of your society, that can bring down the injustice and all the other ills that people are suffering from. Is it okay, or you just you, step aside and let things be? I don't know what course of action to take in this kind of situation.
Remember when you asked me that question many Skypes ago, is the new presentation or the worldwide educators, we'll just use that as an example, are they biting off more than they can chew? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
And what did I say?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You said it was not it. It was not like that. That what we were doing was.
Well, I said yes. Okay. Keep it simple. I said yes. I said I see that. I am. But it's like the old saying: desperate times, uh, need desperate actions, or however that saying goes. In other words, you know, in Darwin and Harold's time. Well, I'll just use this kind of as a funny reference. It was baseball, and I was talking to Claudia about this, and I said, when you look at baseball, when you're playing baseball, you have innings, and there's no time limit on the innings. In other words, you know, uh, you know, one team can be up to bat all day long. It can be for 6 or 8 hours. Maybe it's just 2 outs and they're still up there batting. There's no time limit. Okay, but eventually, yeah, as the sun goes down or whatever, they got to turn on the lights. But pretty soon, people got to go to sleep. But maybe it can continue on to the next day. And even if it's a tie, it can go to extra innings, which it does. There's realistically no time limit, but they do curtail it at some point. That's baseball. Okay, so that was the baseball days, all right? And that was the La La Land days. I'll just say the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and maybe even into the 90s. But now we're right now, and it's more like football. We have a goal that is that to complete something that makes sense for this world. And guess what? The clock's running out. In football, you got the clock. And so you got to make that touchdown in that time. And the world is in a huge demise right now. Huge. And most people don't see it because they don't want to see it. But the biggest demise this world is facing is the unconscious agreements that everybody is feeding it. That is really what is taking place. It is agreements. And so, yeah. One more time. What was your question again? Go ahead, give me the question. This leads up to this. Go ahead, give me your question again.
Yeah, I was asking whether it is appropriate while living in a politically turbulent society that is agitating for greater freedom from oppression and clamoring for justice, for an equity, whether it is a compromise of your integrity as a worldwide educator to engage in this kind of activity, or you just step aside and let things be. Because if you look at most of our life in Africa, is centered around agitation. The governments are so corrupt, and sometimes you even think that you should pick up arms. So I don't know whether this is appropriate or not.
Okay, so we have all these ideas. You have integrity, being appropriate, etc., and whatever other ideas you can think of. Again, compare that to the sun. Do they exist? Even the word idea, belief, happiness, whatever. All these ideas, anything you can think of, compare it to the sun shining. Does it exist with the sun shining? Now let's look at Rebazar Tars and any of the boys. Let's just look at Rebazar. Do you think he has integrity? You think he is concerned about integrity? The idea here is that I would say if the individual has the courage to step into the lion's den and do something that makes sense or present something that makes sense, I don't mean agree with their agenda, okay? There's a difference. And that is that when you see what is being presented out there that looks really good, maybe it's a group that looks like it's against the government and they want freedom, they want rights, oh, they want the hourly wage raised as an example. You see, who really is that created that group? You see, you don't really know, do you? Because the cabal, the one world order, plays all sides. So I would say it's not about that. I would see that all that is limited to what has been decided. You know, freedom and right of voting and choice and all this stuff. That's not the issue. For me, I don't see that. That's not the issue, okay? Because those things are all fake here, okay? I wrote groups on this, freedom and implied freedom. There is a difference. Everything here, I don't care how good it sounds. I don't care how wonderful they are. Even Mother Teresa, she was a little stinker, okay? Yeah, they all were, all right? And so even Gandhi and what have you, they were all little stinkers. They all did funny things because they didn't see the is. And that is that if this individual has the courage to go in there, and we do that, I go into everything. I just signed a petition the other day with Jane Fonda celebrating the birthday of this director, movie director, whatever, and I signed it. Just to be in there. Then I told her, I said, I knew Stuart Carl. See, Stuart Carl did the Jane Fonda tapes, and that was my girlfriend. That was her brother. I knew Stuart Carl personally, and he did the Jane Fonda tapes. He lived down here in Newport Beach, but he died at 36 of stress cancer because he was way into too many things, and the feds came after him, and Zowie, he zapped himself out at 36. But I threw that in there. You know, I will step in there and deal with it, and I know what she's into. It's a bunch of silly nonsense. But you know what? I was told this at one time. A lady that I knew as a seer that works at Rebazar, she said to me, said, you don't want to mess with the corporation or say things about it because that will ruin your integrity. And I told her, I said, you know what? I have no integrity. I said, I'm not here to protect what I don't have or want. I'm here to do this. Like the sun shining, I'm just doing it. And I'm going to be hated or whatever. And, you know, even the boys aren't happy with what I'm doing all the time. They even tell me, you're the hardest to deal with. Well, the thing is, but I'm still doing it. Okay, and that is that I would say to this individual, I would say, yeah, go for it, but make sense of it. In other words, I suggest that take a look at the agenda that's being presented And you don't have to get caught up in it because, this is from a one-dimensional viewpoint. It's from a personal viewpoint. It's this side against that side. It's not about one being against the other. That does not work, okay? Because all that does is create a lot of more nonsense that's misunderstood. But the idea is that if you're going to become involved, in some way make sense of it. So again, it's like the old song, going where angels fear to tread. Okay, so in other words, even the angels won't go in there because again, it's too dastardly. But guess what? The boys will go in there. They will go all the way into the darkness and pull things out because they can see it. But they have nothing to do with that. So I would say, again, I don't see where I have integrity because I don't think I get that agreement from anybody, so I'm not going to be looking for it or being respected or whatever. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking to do this, and I'm looking to see who will step up and be wonderful and have the courage to be so. That's all. That's all really I ask is that, and I do the best I can to show people how to be wonderful. And I even tell them once they're like that, I've told them, and they realize it's like I tricked you into being wonderful. And some people realize that. That's the whole idea. Yeah, I'm going to trick everybody I can into being wonderful. And that's the whole idea, shine like the sun. So I would say, yes, go for it. Because you know what? This is the world today. We only have so much time. Do everything you can, to present something real, to let people know. Just like yesterday, on the group with Sam and Elham, she came from Turkey and she went back to her country and she said, you know what, she had already decided, I'm going to go in there and just tell everybody about this. And you know what, she went through it and she found somebody. You see, she took the risk. She didn't care about the political system. She didn't care what people thought about her. She did it, and look at the end result. It was awesome, and the reality life will shine through that person. And Sam here, he knows that. He knows the relationships with these people. And it's just awesome. The Friday groups that we have with Sam and the Asians, etc. I see it as just awesome. Yeah, I do put people out there. I put them before me. I really do. And all you have to do is, and I see anybody, just like a child, if your child is making the effort, that's all that matters. It's not about going up there and hitting a home run, but you know what? At least do something. Do something. But don't just go get buried in your personal life. I've seen this, where people decide certain things. And you know what? They think it's going to come out. They think it's going to come out the way they want because of their relationships and whatever. And you know what? I see them. They're usually taken away. And then they're gone. And then they come screaming back. Just like the experience that Zabin had that shared with Chris, and when they were in the movie theater, etc. It all shows up eventually. You know what the end result is? How fortunate you can be to stand real with the real guides, and at the same time, go out there and take on the adventure in creation, because it's all okay. Again, when you think of these ideas, integrity and this, and how does it reflect? Hey, I don't care. You know what? I've told everybody all the time, you go do what you want. And Ava will see some things on Facebook. It's like, oh, such and such posted this, or he's talking about God or whatever. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to police this. It's like, Ava, just let them go through it. Just let them learn what they will. We don't have to comment on everything. Just, you know what? Just let it go. Just let them do whatever they want. You know what? I'll deal with it. Whatever it is, whatever they bring to me. And yeah, just like, Jesus in the court of Pilate, or whatever his name was, the governor at the time, it's like, you're guilty, you're guilty, you're guilty. Yeah, well, again, I'll admit to everything. I'll admit to the Boston fire. I'll admit to 9/11. I'll admit to it all. Yeah, I did the earthquakes in 80 and whatever, etc. I did Fukushima. Hey, I'll admit to all of it. I don't really care, But I get to present the is and the boys. That's what I get to do. So aside from all the nonsense that goes in this world, you know what I tell this individual? Go for it. But just be real with it. In other words, watch your agreements with what looks good and what's implied. Again, the sun shining, what makes sense. There is no freedom here. There's only freedom in the real universes with the real boys and with the real guides. And so, you have to have your adventure here. You see, this is where the corporation members, they're afraid to do anything. They're afraid to do whatever, and all they can do is, even though they basically hate us within themselves, they're churning all this stuff, so they're even tap line more, which Joni loves because it's all emotional. But on the outer, all they do is just say, "Oh, I love the Hugh Baraka Bashad." You see, that's all they're allowed to do, because it's like, oh, we don't want to create karma like Duane's doing. Guess what? Rebazar has said, forget the karma, get on with the adventure. Forget the karma, forget all this nonsense. Again, we went through the babysitter. Do what you do, then stand up to it. Okay, if you trip on something and you hurt yourself, okay. You've hurt yourself, or you said the wrong thing to somebody, fine, you can fix it. Face up to it, you can do it. I've said a lot of things, and I got to deal with it. I'll face up to it. But in the meantime, look what I've presented to the world like no one else. Overall, that's really what it is. I can't do things perfectly. No matter what you do, you can make the best sandwich in the world, and 9 out of 10 people are fine, and the 10th one gets sick. So what is everybody going to do? They're going to look at the sick guy. Oh, you tried to kill this guy with your sandwich. And they forget the other 9 guys, you see? They forget the other that survived it, but we're going to focus on this one here, because you know what? We're bored, and we want to create an emotional issue, so we're going to make a big deal out of this. This is how the world is. I see how it is, and they're going to constantly do that. And they're going to constantly rib us. But you know what? This is where you take the risk to stand with Rebazar and the boys. Forget me. Forget Duane. Just stand with Rebazar and the boys. Okay, do that. Do something. Or what do you got? Public opinion? Personal opinion? That's all you've got. And so what are you going to do? Join some group because they want to free themselves or make some new law or restrict that law, or they don't want to pay as much taxes or whatever? You want to stick with that group? Where in the heck is that going? That's just an idea in creation that goes nowhere, realistically. But if you haven't even learned that much, what have you learned? So again, hey, I stand behind whatever Kelsey says, whatever Chris says, whatever Claudia says, and I've seen some of the funny stuff they write. You know what? I will stick up for them because I see their hearts. And Sam and the others and Ava, they can say anything funny. It's like, oops, I said that. It's like, that's all right. We'll deal with it. You know what? I'll stand by you. Because I see how real they are within themselves. They are real people. Because again, they're not perfect, but I'll stick up for them. I will stand real with them. Yes. So I would say, go for it. It's not about what you see, the appearance of things. It's about the adventure and, being that being of light and presenting something real. That's what I see. So it doesn't matter what it appears to be. It's all the same nonsense. I don't need to hear what the president says or this person or that person or Harry, whatever. It's all the same nonsense. I'll just walk right through it. And it's like, this is what I'm presenting. And yeah, it's going to blow their minds because you know what? It's very real. And they can deny it all they want. But you know what? Doesn't change it. It's still real. It's still real as it always been. You cannot change the is or the sun shining. It is still there. Yeah, that's what's so cool about it. Yeah, so we create the best references we can. And we get that adventure. Lucky us. It's a privilege. Yes. Thank you, Charles. It's always an exciting session. We love it when you show up. We sincerely do. I do. I'm very grateful that you're there, and I'm very grateful that everybody has showed up. And so I don't see the difference in anybody, but I'm going to bug people. It's like, hey, step up and do something. You know what? This is, come on out into the playing field and throw the ball around. Okay, you don't have to be the great quarterback or whatever, but just come out and do it. That's what I love about the kids. Children are wonderful, and that's what the concerts are about. And Keith, we've created I created Worldwide Educators strikingly, and Kelsey's kind of put together as a reference for you with the benefit concerts, so it's something that you can use for what you're presenting to the people and what we've discussed. So just adding these things as a reference for you also, especially because I want people to see the overall, and we're really focused on the children of the world because the children are the future, and their view and their attitude and their experience and just their presence is precious. And so I would say that's worth protecting and referring to. So yeah, with that, let's, yeah, thank you again, Charles. You're wonderful. You ignite all these things. And again, it creates an activity and a better understanding for people. Yeah, just take the risk. Forget karma, forget all this nonsense, forget integrity and all these things. You know what? Shine like the sun. You don't need anything. Just be yourself, real, and let's have fun together. Thank you again, Charles. Yes, and say hello to Miriam. Again, it's moment by moment, sorting things out. It's always going to be like this, and actually, as we become more known into the world, the confrontation will even get greater. So I don't look for things to be wonderful here. You know, that's something you decide for yourself. And as I see the others here and whatever, I'm just very grateful to know everybody. That's my position. And at the same time, the world is going to do what the world is going to do, because again, the world has its comfort zone, its ideas, and you can't take that away. They have free will. They have the right to do it. And so while we're here, we just do what we do. And so I'm constantly updating and redefining things. And so our best position is simply a reference. We're not a category. We're simply a reference, like the sun shining. It's the best reference of all here, and who really notices it? So, you know, we do have that real position, but you know, you decide how you're going to, you might say, stand real with it. That's up to you, and to face it. So with that, have fun. Thank you so much. Yes, we'll see you next time. Thank you.